Hey everyone, so we're going to do a different video today. This is going to be probably our last walkthrough the current, or what will soon become the old office. You may have seen that we're working on a move. We've been working on this for a while now. The whole project's something like a year at this point, but the last maybe 9 months or so have been renovation, upfit, all kinds of other stuff. So we have separate videos on that showing some of the basics. This is going to be focused on what will become the old location, showing you why in part we're moving. We're very cramped at this point. Actually, if Andrew takes a few steps back, you'll see the rest of the set here. And so we're going to go over all of this and show you around the office, show you where the problems are that we're fixing, and just give you a feel for, I guess, what it was like here when it was the most chaotic. Before that, this video is brought to you by ASUS and the ROG Crosshair 8 series of X570 motherboards for AMD. ASUS has both the Crosshair 8 Hero Dark and the Crosshair 8 Extreme available, offering high-end motherboards for high core count AMD systems. We've used the Crosshair series for years, for everything from basic overclocking up to liquid nitrogen overclocking, and we found them easy to work with, particularly for their extremely well-organized BIOS menus. Learn more at the link in the description below. Okay, so this set, if we drop in some shots of our office tour from previously, from about 3 years ago when we were at the house, this never got as crowded as that. Where that one, we have shots of, I think it was me, maybe Andrew as well, but definitely I was tripping under lights, and we were so cramped there that there was no way to get behind the set table without ducking and weaving through light tripods, because it was just in a bedroom basically. So this is still a lot better than that. But as we look around, I mean, this is all the set. I don't really need to describe this to those of you who watch the channel. This is where we have done a lot of live streams, but we haven't been able to do as many this year for a number of reasons. One, it's mostly just my time's been maxed with everything. But the other one is it's become a storage space for active projects. And the thing is, the reason we're expanding how much sort of stuff we have open or active at a given time in the way, in other words, at a given time, is because our content's gotten a lot more complex in the last 3 years, where, you know, we did all this stuff with Digital Foundry, and this took 3 PlayStations, which if you've ever opened one, and I hope you never have to, it's like 60 or something screws at least. Definitely at least, I mean, this is, so anyway, you end up with stuff like this everywhere, where until this content's 100% complete, I don't want to put it away, because it's a nightmare to take it all back apart. So this starts causing problems where it cascades, and now we can't do live streams here until all this stuff's cleaned up and out of the way. But we can't really clean it up and get out of the way until the content's complete, because everything kind of comes back to, in a lot of ways, testing consistency and accuracy, where if I start reassembling stuff too early and I have to take it apart again, it's going to influence how that component behaves later, because if it's only like a PS5 where it's got liquid metal or tearing thermal pads or whatever, it's a lot more controls we have to put in place. So anyway, that's been a mess. I'm looking forward to being able to clean this up. We basically, it kind of feels like we've been closed in on, just like we did at the house. I don't think that's going to happen at the new place. I sure hope it's not going to happen within the next 5 years, because there's a lot of space there. But you know, we've added team members over the last 3 years. We've added stuff obviously for those people. We've added the amount of content we're producing, the depth of the content. Everything has more tools now. We're getting big testing machines, like the fan tester is actually delivering tomorrow at the time of us filming this video. And that thing's like, it's this wide and it's about this deep, and that's just part of the machine. And there's a big compressor that goes with it too. All that takes space. So back here is more PlayStation stuff. We have various computers in disarray. You can see it down at the floor. So this is a Dell computer. This is an Alienware computer. So just, it's computers everywhere, and they're not good ones. These, at least not these. So that's been the pre-built stuff. This is something that we let get more out of control the last few weeks, because it hasn't mattered, because we know we're ramping up for a move, so we just sort of let stuff pile up. It's a lot of pre-built, it's a lot of stuff that we want to review or need to review. Okay, so next room is going to be testing room, which we've shown a lot. I was like this old core memory, but we've shown this room a lot over the past. Patrick and Mike are working in here right now. We'll talk to these guys in a minute, but or maybe not. Mike's putting his headphones back on. We mostly showed this corner recently with Patrick Stone doing power supply stuff. So when he's in here, 3 people in the room's not bad. The problem is we've got systems over here that run. We have this bench that runs, maybe power supply is running. And so any data that gets transacted, definitely at least 2 people go to different spots to do that. And then Stone and Mike end up sort of fighting in an octagon.
Yeah, we've had like a little bit of a kind of turf war. Every day I come back in and some more of his parts have navigated over to where I normally work, and then I slowly move them back over to corners of the office that I don't use.
Right.
And he continues to expand because he's here a little bit more often than me. So far I'm losing the battle, but the war's not over, but I am losing the battle.
Yeah, so that'll be fixed at the new place. I mean, he's always got power supplies taken apart over here. So there's bits and pieces of power supplies. We've got a stack of gigabyte ones back here. I think we're not really sure what to do with yet. But the other problem other than space for people to work though is heat, where Mike especially, you have to keep this bench, the ambient pretty consistent for this.
Yeah, when I'm running the tests, I normally vacate this area because even like standing over here will throw off the temperature readings on our probe, and then of course that throws off our delta, and
yeah,
that's no good. So
yes, he's working on cooler benching freezer duo.
Arctic
Arctic
freezer,
Duo.
yeah.
Is it the esports edition?
It's the esports edition.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Can't you tell?
The red was pretty promising.
That's high speed.
I personally like how it matches the Vertigear chair. If I were building an esports computer. Yeah, so this is the thermal bench for CPU coolers. We've shown this before. We've got 2 CPU benches here. The one on the left is just running Puget, right, Patrick? So this, we've talked about it. We've shown it in our charts and stuff, but I don't know if you want to talk through, I guess, what software it's testing, but...
Yeah, this is doing Premiere right now. I just finished Photoshop. Puget offers software testing suites for a lot of Adobe products and some other products as well, like DaVinci Resolve, which is sitting in a corner on top of a bin that is from Steve's house that never got unpacked when we moved in.
There's a lot of that too. Or back at the house, I actually didn't even mention that yet. There's still like at least one entire room back at the house that's filled with stuff we just don't have space for, like an extra set of lights. So that'll be nice to empty that out and into somewhere else where hopefully, that's the biggest problem, is like can't even sort what's useful if it's all packed in a way that you can't access it. So
this is my corner. This is what I've done with my corner. It's a little less neat than Stone's corner. I mean, I can go through some of this if you want me to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll let you walk through the case testing area.
So speed run. This is a metal pole that I put a magnet on at one point to pick up screws with. These are old Macs. This is a shattered hard drive. This is where case testing happens typically, or pre-built thermal testing.
That one looks promising.
Yeah, it's got a lot of ventilation. There's some holes here. When we're done with that, it'll get stuff, well, it won't actually because we're moving, but a lot of the time cases get kind of stuck under here because there's not any room left in the storage room. That's the Segatep system we built on stream at some point. Parts from a system that's in the other room running the PS5 fan at a controlled speed. Parts from the case testing benches, and a big cardboard box full of parts that have become orphaned.
Right.
We have the Cougar Conqueror up there with some parts from a viewer in it that there's no space to put anywhere else, so they've been sitting up there for a couple of years now.
Yeah, we did a build with it on a stream, I think.
Yes.
And then it ended up there. So, yeah, and cases are the thing we get rid of the most, frequently at least, just because they're huge and they get in the way. So Patrick and I will go through every now and then and just filter out cases. There's no point in keeping all of those, especially since it's like Corsair or Leanne Lee will send us 3 variants of the same thing with different fan configurations. So that we've been able to get rid of, but the problem is we want to hang on to a bunch of stuff for regression testing. So like Patrick recently, is that the O11 down there? dynamic.
The 011. This is the 011 Mini. 011 Dynamic Mini.
Yeah.
This is not the Air.
Right.
This is an SGI keyboard.
So the reason we'll hang on to stuff is because for regression testing, just like with the coolers, every now and then, like at some point, Mike's gonna have a lot of fun rerunning a bunch of the most important coolers over the years on a different platform. Because like at some point we'll replace this one.
When we added the 3600, we went back and reran like the Scythe, the Fuma, and
Noctua.
and the Noctuas, yeah.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting that like when we're doing our testing and the days that I'm working, like I regularly have to kick Patrick out to do sound testing, and that means shutting down all these benches because any of the acoustics from the computers running over there throws off all the testing because we have to establish a floor.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Where it's even so not only having to evict other people and shut down other benches, which interrupts testing for other stuff, but also we only have one AC unit for this suite, so you have to turn the whole thing off.
Yep, and I heat up the whole office, and I have to let everybody know, so I crank up the temperature, and then, and even when Patrick, he has to delay his testing, whenever I'm in here because I'm in here less frequently, so he always has to work around me.
Right. Yeah. So, and then the other room, the production room, we'll get to, gets really hot when we're doing noise testing because it's got a lot of computers that are active and the AC's off. So we'll be able to fix that in the new space too. That pretty much wraps this room, I guess. I'll get out of their way now. Patrick Stone is over at the new location, so he's not in here today, but we'll see him soon. We don't really show this area. This is a drink Andrew was consuming earlier, and other than that, it's like a kitchen, so I guess that's really all there is to this spot. I can start opening drawers and pantries, but that's not really that exciting. This is storage, so I'm going to try and go through this quickly. This is actually very organized, but there's a lot of stuff. So our organizational system has started to break down as we've gotten pushed out of the space, out of different, having to get more creative with how we store stuff. And I really want to emphasize this again. We hang on to a lot of things for regression testing, meaning when you see us do a GTX 770 revisit, which I did recently, or a 1060 revisit, or we pull out the 4770K, that can only happen because we hang on to one or two old motherboards for each generation. Actually, Steve from Hardware Unboxed talked about this very same thing in his video recently for his new space, where he was saying typically you want to hold on to at least two. And that's because if one breaks and it's old hardware, good luck getting another one, certainly good luck getting it fast. So we hang out to one or two. As we move, we're actually going to get rid of a bunch of these because vendors tend to send us multiple SKUs that we don't actually want. That's the other thing where sometimes stuff just shows up, which I appreciate on one hand, which is that if we need something to do testing, it's probably here. But on the other hand, it's like stuff just shows up and then I have to figure out where to put it. So that's how we use this room. This is all Intel for the most part over here. This is all AMD over here. We're gonna need more space for this. Power supply is up top. We have a cart that has been not usable since we moved in, basically. Stuff we want to do to clean that off the new space too. This is just another shelf where we have a bunch of cases on the bottom. We have the cases on the bottom, almost everything in here. If you just kind of look down there, you'll see them. So some of these, actually a good amount of these, we hang on to for permanent comparison. So actually, this is another point I should talk about, where recalibration, it's so dark in here too, because the shelves are just like towering. It's like being in skyscrapers. But recalibration of testing is another thing I mentioned, where at some point, just like with Mike's bench, Patrick's case bench, we're going to have to update it. Something will break, something will die from being used so much. And so when we have to update, you can't start from zero data. You have to calibrate against known good data to establish that the scaling one product to the next is sensible and makes sense, and that your new testing hardware is actually a good choice of hardware and that you don't need to change it. So in order to calibrate, we need a couple things that we understand how they perform very well. It means we need a few of the best cases we've ever worked on, so that would be like these 3 right here. We need a few of the worst cases we've ever worked on. This is a piece of trash. It deserves to be an e-waste somewhere, but we hang on to a couple things like this, because when we do recalibrate or do verify against old test passes to make sure everything still looks good, we're gonna need one that's very open, one that's very closed, so that we can have 2 very different ends of the spectrum of the chart, and we can get a good idea of is there enough room here to show product scaling as we benchmark them, or do we need to use different hardware to show a bigger gap in the components because maybe there's not enough heat load and so they look too close on the chart. So that's why we hang out to some of these. I was trying to explain it because you're going to see some cases in here where you'll probably be like, I remember that review. Why would they keep that? And that's pretty much the answer. Basically, stuff like this becomes an extremely useful tool despite being a horrible product, because as a tool, we can use it to establish sort of basic scientific principles of accuracy with testing to the extent possible. So that's why we keep those. Headset wall here, we've got a bunch of stuff up here. It's like a lot of GN product overflow where we just kind of keep some extras around. We have actually a bunch of random merch from other companies too. Video cards, this is another problem where now, and this isn't all new, to be very clear, this is like years of basically collecting them. So and I do find myself choosing my words wisely right now because I know the GPU market. So yes, I am aware of what it looks like, but this is what we use to do GPU benchmarking, to do game benchmarking, things like that. These get actively used. They don't just live on the shelf. They're pulled frequently, and even old stuff like I can get something older than that, 970, 780 Ti, 950. These are pulled for all that testing we talk about, refreshing the data, things like that. So this has become problematic from storage. It's not the worst thing. We can deal with it. We can keep dealing with it for years if we have to, but small thing that will improve is right now there's no generational sorting. There used to be, but when all the space is filled, now it's just you take a card out and a different card goes in there instead of being, you know, 9 series, 10 series, 20 series, which is what it used to be. CPUs are down here. We've probably shown this enough. I don't really need to show it too much. All this stuff, this corner is frequently in the disappointment build, so you've all seen it by now. But that's AMD, all AMD here, all Intel here, RAM's on the other side, so we'll go over there. Small stuff, I was really happy when we added this shelf. It sounds stupid, but that's where we're at now. We're just like the old space where we were min-maxing every square foot of space in the house. We started doing that here. The testing room we were just in, I didn't mention it, but there's a 24 by 18, sorry for using Imperial, 24 by 18 shelf that we put in somewhat recently, and it was a massive help, and it felt really good to get that in there because it stores all of our soldering stuff. So anyway, that's camera equipment. Then we have more camera equipment with some pressure paper overflow, coolers. There's a big e-waste bin. We bring that to Cramden Institute where they recycle it, get some money out of the copper to help fund their charitable operation where they build computers for people who can't afford them. So that's what that is. Old GPUs, disassembled GPUs, AMD GPUs, about as fast as I can go through it. This is all memory, DDRs 1 through 5 now. Some cases down there. This is the AMD mountain bike, you might remember it. It's garbage, but it was a fun video. And I'll probably put that on a wall somewhere at the office just for decoration. This is one of my mountain bikes. I've run out of space, so because where I normally store this is also filled with boxes for GN, so I need to get those out and into the new space. Server rack, we've got patch panels and 10 gigabit switch, all that stuff back here. Nothing too crazy. A pallet that we're going to use at some point. Server itself, the disk shelf. Wendell built both of these with us. He did most of the work, and that pretty much caps this corner. So I'm going to try and get out of here safely. And then this is just the fan shelf. This is a bookshelf I brought in that I wanted to use personally. But I was saying this to Stone the other day, where I said the business is, it's sort of like having a sibling where everything is ours, nothing is mine. So everything becomes GN's over time. Anyway, this is all the fans. We'll be able to start running through some of these. Some of them have gotten too old to really be worth testing. But we've got like Gentle Typhoons and a couple other sort of famous ones in here. We'll be able to test those on the fan machine, which is, like I said earlier, it should be arriving tomorrow. So let's go to the last room. Okay, so this is the last room. This is the production room. This is the one I was talking about getting really hot when we have to mess with the AC for testing. So all that's going to be solved, where we'll have, the rooms have different AC units, fortunately, but so they can be turned off. It's more efficient, obviously, than just, this is something we have to do here. We have to drive the temperature of the whole office down really hard to cool sort of one room, which is the testing room, to keep a steady temperature when we measure it with a thermocouple. Or this room, we have to keep it at a certain baseline, because it's not, I mean, you can do all the AC balancing you want, but it's hard to balance against this. So good luck. So anyway, small stuff like that, quality of life improvements, but also efficiency, not work, but power efficiency, where we're going to be wasting a lot less energy on some basic stuff. We'll obviously be using more on some other stuff, but that's the way it goes. So this is Keegan's workstation. Brian from BPS Customs built this with us, did a great job on it. You should subscribe to his channel if you're not. But Keegan does work here. He's got a art altered terastodon. Maybe we'll be able to put that on the wall or something at the new space. But this is for Adobe Premiere editing, which is what he's handling. Andrew tends to work here. We're going to build him a better computer. He's behind the camera right now. Need a better computer for this once we move, but there's not a table to build a computer on right now, so that's a problem for us. So he tends to do Unreal Engine stuff. Blender gets a lot of use here. Adobe Premiere. Andrew, you would say Adobe Premiere is your favorite software of all time, right? That's a firm yes. Zero hesitation. He said it never crashes. You can't hear him because he's not mic'd. That's what you said, right?
It's definitely somewhere in the top 500 programs.
Top 5, somewhere in the top 500 programs. Andrews, that's really big praise. Minesweeper in there?
It is. It's in the top 300.
Top 300, okay. All right. This is sort of just like a swap space workstation where Stone's worked here sometimes, but has run into issues where he tends to work in the other room most frequently if Mike's not in there doing work. So they tend to, Mike and Stone are the only people with a somewhat normal schedule in the office where they want to work more normal hours than the rest of us. So it's a conflict for who uses the station. So Stone will come here and work if Mike's using that one. But otherwise, it's not his favorite computer, but we're going to be able to fix that again once we move. He's got a non-functional AMD 5700X over here. This was destroyed by AMD, just to be clear, not us. They destroyed it, they sent it to us for some mechanical analysis a long time ago. But he's been using that to just study VRM, layout, and PCBs. And that pretty much caps this station. That's the oldest workstation we have here on the floor. Still usable, still works. That's Andrew's old editing machine from the house. So that has been through a lot. And then GPU testing, the PS5 was getting done here. This is the Franken console I built that Digital Foundry talked about. Let's see the other problem here. You see this? Like, I should talk about this too. So this is where I sit, and then every now and then, I mostly run the GPU benches, like Patrick's in there doing CPU, Mike's doing cooler. I tend to mostly do GPU. Every now and then I need help with the GPU benches where I can't keep up with the workload or there's a problem with it or whatever. If that's the case, then I get to sit here and Patrick gets to sit here, and then it feels just like it did 4 years ago at the house, where we're physically bumping into each other just to try and get out of a chair. So fortunately this will be moved into a more publicly accessible space instead of being partitioned off into a corner behind me and maybe one other person. So that's changed there. We were using this computer to control the PS5 fan speeds. There's a GPU bench on that side, GPU bench on this side, 2 monitors, and normally we use the same monitor, but that's for the PS5. Got a small shelf for intake for cards being tested. That's pretty much it. So that'll pretty much cover it then. Was this? Oh, okay. I think like 30 minutes ago this wasn't here. So just a great example of what I was talking about earlier with the shooting of products and things. But that covers it. you get a better idea now for where we've been working. It wasn't always this crowded. It was actually great when we first moved in. But like I said, we've grown where Patrick Stone has since joined the team full time. Mike has joined the team working on the coolers. And so that's increased personnel, and then that increases everything, right? So you scale personnel with another chair for each person. That takes up permanent floor space. Another computer for each person. You have to work around each other, like Mike was saying, for noise testing, things like that. So that's where we are. The new place is going to fix basically all these problems. And I'm excited to work with it because it's going to expand our capabilities a lot. We'll be able to buy new equipment. Even just here, when we moved here, we added liquid nitrogen. We could never do that at the house. And we'll be able to add a lot of things at the new place too that we couldn't do here. We don't have a way to take in large equipment at this location, but we do at the new location, so we can buy it there. So that'll cover it. Check the channel for videos of the move as they get posted. And you can check out the old moving vlog if you're curious to see where we came from. But thanks for watching as always. Thanks for the support. Subscribe for more. You can go to store.gamersnexus.net or patreon.com/gamersnexus to help us out directly. And thank you to all of our viewers, new and old, for helping get us to where we are now. We'll see you all next time.